Before the weekend, I talked about NFC teams and where they're trending. And it's been an eventful weekend. A lot of things have changed, a lot of things have happened, and a lot of things have become more clear. And typically with the AFC, there's some things that are going to stay the same, but the trends, there are some massive trends that you notice from this weekend. This is Son of a Sports. Let's get into it. I already just posted a short where I talked about this team, but I'm going to talk about the Chargers first. Let's start with the AFC West. The Chargers are in a good direction. They're 5-3 after a rough slump where Herbert was hurt, the offensive line was having some issues, and the offense just was very stagnant. They've been good. They've been good since then. They blew a game to the Chargers, and since then they've won 2 games in a row, and I feel a little bit more confident in this team. The AFC is wide open, and this team has a clear identity, and they feel more confident in that each and every week. The trade deadline's tomorrow, and there hasn't been much moves in the last week or so, but there's still a chance that they could still go out there and get a receiver, which I think I would like. And like maybe a Mike Williams, that could definitely help stretch this offense a little bit more. Quentin Johnston, now that he's healthy, he's looking like he had earlier in the year. I know we all labeled him as a bust, but I think he at least has some talent to him and can perform in this offense still. He has an identity and a place in this offense as of now. Ladd McConkey, J.K. Dobbins had a really good game against the Browns. And Joe Alt, this was his worst game all year. I mean, he had to face Myles Garrett the entire day, and he still played pretty well. Like 5 pressures, yes, but that's like the one thing he had. Like that's the one game where he has slumped, and he still played pretty well for the later half of the game. I'm pretty confident in the Chargers going forward. I feel like they need a little bit more in their passing offense. Another team to feel a little confident about right now, they're still near the top of the AFC despite getting blown out yesterday. It's the Broncos. Their defense is possibly the best defense in the NFL. 2 defenses going into the year where people were like, maybe in the middle tier of the NFL, the Vikings and the Broncos. Well, the Broncos and the Vikings are both the 2 best defenses in the NFL. The Broncos have fully gone all in on using Patrick Surtain as their guy. I mean, they've done that, but he is clearly a decoy candidate if the voters valued the cornerback position in terms of decoy. I really, really do like their defense. They're incredibly smart. The scheme is absolutely beautiful. They blitz when they need to blitz. They trust their corners. And without one of the best safeties in football in Justin Simmons, they've been able to still lock down opposing teams, other than the Ravens, of course. I still think this team has a lot to go before making a playoff spot. I feel like there's some teams that can come back and overtake the Broncos because they do have some weaknesses. I don't think Bo Nix is the best quarterback out there. Their running back tandem is not great. Javonte Williams has had like 3 or 4 good games at best, and they just don't have the receiving options outside of Cortland Sutton to really, really threaten opposing defenses. But I do love their defense, and I think if there was a team to surprise a lot of people and make the playoffs, it is the Broncos. With the Raiders, it's clear this team is full tanking. I mean, I don't think they're purposely doing it, but they don't have the personnel to make any, runs at this point. Like they are 2-7. They're at the worst record in the NFL. They just fired their defensive coordinator or their offensive coordinator. Antonio Pierce is on the hot seat. If Mark Davis can afford it, like I said in my coaching video, if Mark Davis has the money, I genuinely believe he would fire Antonio Pierce. And yeah, it has not been a great season for the Raiders. Trading Devontae Adams, Max Crosby being constant trade rumors. And yes, they've come out and said they won't do it. But I mean, the fact that he's even in those trade rumors says a lot after an offseason where you spent a lot of money and drafted a lot of guys you thought could help come in and help you make a playoff push. That was the feeling when you signed Gardner Minshew, when you drafted Brock Bowers, after a year after you spent a second-round pick on Michael Mayer, where you still kept Devontae Adams and didn't trade him, despite him having a good stretch to end the year, and the offensive line being better than people thought last year, and the defense signing Christian Wilkins. You made moves. This was a team that thought they could make the playoffs, and they have the worst record in the NFL through 9 weeks. And I feel like this is a team that's going to probably try to tank of some sorts to try to get a quarterback in the draft. That's my feeling. Chiefs play tonight, when I'm recording this segment of this video. I don't know if I post this tonight. And yeah, I mean, they're undefeated. They are the number 1 record in the NFL. They don't feel like it, but they are right now. They are the number 1 record in the NFL. They're the number 1 seed. They have not lost a game. They play every opponent close. And it's clear this team has gone to back-to-back Super Bowls. And the clear thing is they are still the Chiefs. Like, trending towards a direction. I do see some teams in the NFC that might knock them off, and there's like a team or two in the AFC that I think if they get it together, yeah, they could knock off the Chiefs. But right now, this team still feels like the favorite for the Super Bowl. Like the Lions might be the only team I think right now, as of today, I'm confident the roster might go toe to toe with the Chiefs. But every other opponent we thought going into the year, the Ravens, their defense has not been good. Like they played good against the Broncos this week, but the Broncos' offense has not been great this year. And the Bills were in a shootout against the Dolphins, and I understand that, but the Bills have had games where they still struggle a lot. Their record is good. Don't get me wrong. And I picked Josh to be MVP to start the year. I think they're modeling this Chiefs team from 2022. But this Chiefs team, they are still the favorite. They've had so many injuries and so many issues, but they just traded for 2 quality guys. Hopkins helps unlock their offense just a little bit more. Kareem Hunt's been one of the most efficient backs since signing with them. Their offensive line's still good. Their defense is still good and a quality defense. There's not a lot of weaknesses to this team right now. And they have the best player in the NFL. The AFC East, hold on. Patriots, Jets, Bills, all right next to each other. Then you go all the way down to Miami. That's just so weird to me sometimes. All right, sorry. Side tangent. Patriots. We know this team is not a playoff contender. They're not a team that was going into the year thinking they had a quality roster. That's why they started Jacoby Brissett. It's one of the reasons why. Because they knew that if they make Drake May go out there with that roster immediately, that he would struggle. And yeah, he has 6 touchdowns and 4 picks, but I think he's looked like the best rookie so far in terms of how much talent he's shown. Like I think Caleb has had serious flashes that make me confident he's a franchise guy. Same with Jaden. Bo in certain moments makes me confident in him. But Drake looks like the most special guy right now. His deep ball is incredible. He's really, really, really elusive in the pocket. And that game-winning drive, or game-tying drive to force it in overtime against the Titans, yeah, he threw a pick at the end. But the leadership after, the way he talked about it, maybe I'm hyping him up too much. But I do see it in Drake May. If there's a thing to trend here, like I talked about in the NFC video with a team long-term, it is this team. As long as they do right by Drake May, put the right pieces around him, don't do the Belichick thing where you say, let's not go get a receiver, let's not invest in the receiving room. This is the worst receiving core in the NFL possibly. And they're going to need to get a receiver or draft a receiver very soon if you want to go all in on this kid. That and offensive line. I think in this draft, you're probably going to say to yourself, offensive lineman in the first round, maybe a receiver again in the second round, because Polk has not worked out with them. He's leading the league in drops or something. And he's already saying, free me. But yeah, I still think the Patriots are going in the right direction. They have one of the best players in the league on defense, and they have one of my most exciting players on offense. The Dolphins and all their comparisons to the Cowboys feels really accurate here. They're the AFC Cowboys. They can't play against big teams. They look really good numbers-wise in the regular season, and the playoffs come, and they just look unprepared, or they just fall apart towards the end of years. It's fitting here because both teams have missed their window. At least with Dallas, you still have a lot of guys locked down, a lot of potential to, build around there. With Miami, it's clear. This team, probably with Dallas too, you need a culture reset. But with Miami, you definitely need something different. I know a lot of Dolphins fans that are ready for a rebuild. And yeah, they might trend and go get a bunch of wins towards the end of the year. I don't know about a bunch. They've lost their first 2 games since Stu has been back. But this team just doesn't have the juice to go finish this year with some big run. And if they do, come to me in week 18 and chew me out. And I'll take the criticism. But Tyreek's been in trade rumors for 6 weeks now. Tua missed a long time. There were calls for him to retire from football. Jalen Waddle has had injury issues this year. The offensive line is the worst it's been since Mike McDaniel got there. The defense is not. Anthony Weaver's an incredible play caller, but Jordan Poyer hasn't been good. Javon Holland has been good, but Jordan Poyer hasn't been that great of a signing. Kendall Fuller has not looked incredible. The defense just doesn't have the juice that they've had before. Jalen Phillips is out for the year again. Is Bradley Chubb? I don't remember Bradley Chubb being back. The linebackers have not been as good as you wanted them to be. It's just there's not a lot of juice on this team, and you're hoping it works out, and it just hasn't so far. It really hasn't. Side tangent real quick. This photo is so clean of the Jets. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah, I think the Jets have a realistic chance here to make a run. If they were going to do it, I think this is the trend upward. They face a Texans team that has serious issues on the offensive line, receiving depth issues. The defense has really been hot with the Texans lately, but the Jets had every reason to lose that game, but they won it. And that's a thing to take away too from that game. The Jets have made serious mistakes and they still won that game. There's two things to take from there. This team can learn from those mistakes and go forward and think, we got away with this, but we can't do that again. And we still won the game against a good team. So we have to say to ourselves, are we that talented team that beat them, or are we just a team that got lucky? And that's one thing. Or they could really just, it was a fluke win, it didn't work out. They did play awful and they just got lucky. I think they are a talented roster. I think the offensive line, although it's had some issues, Tyron Smith has looked his age. Morgan Moses has had moments where he struggled, and then other times he's been injured. Ali Fushanu, when he comes in, has not been perfect, but this was supposed to be a year for him to develop. Elijah Vera Tucker has been hurt. John Simpson has been hurt. I think once they're healthy, I think they'll be one of the better offensive lines in the league. And play calling's been still inconsistent with Todd Downing, in my opinion. I think the passing game has looked better. Rodgers has gotten more comfortable with Adams again. Like, that was something they did have to adjust. Like, you can't just place him there and hope that works out. But there are times where it's like, oh, it's clear. The identity is working with allowing Brees to run the ball, and they go away from him, and they'll take him out the game for Braylon Allen for a bunch of snaps, and it confuses everyone because it's like, Brees is 6 carries for 57 yards, and he just got you a big gain. Why are you taking him out the game? And then it kills drives because Rodgers is either forcing up chuck balls with Braylon Allen blocking, or they're running up the middle for Braylon Allen with 3 yards. And I think Braylon Allen's talented, but it's a side tangent about this. It just confuses me sometimes because the way they've used Brees this year is really not the way I think he should have been used. Like, last year it was the same way. They wouldn't use him at the goal line, and they've tried to use Brees at the goal line. That Broncos game, it didn't work out, but Broncos did have the best defense in the NFL. I think that if there's a time for the Jets to trend up, it's now. And there are signs they could. It's just coaching's going to have to be better. You can't make them dumb decisions like you did. Roughing the kicker, roughing the holder, roughing the snapper, things like that. You got to make right decisions, and you got to play perfect ball because you are in a hole. Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, we knew that. And if Lamar wasn't playing as good as he is right now, and there might be voter fatigue with Lamar, I think they give it to Allen. I think he's been incredible. They're 6-2, 7-2. They're near the top of the AFC. They've played inconsistent, but they've played good football a lot of the time. James Cook has slowed down, but they have Ray Davis, who's been really hot. Josh has remained, like Mahomes 2 years ago. Like I said before the season started, calm, conservative, not really trying to find the downhill play, but when he does, he gets it. He's 14 touchdowns to 1 pick. The defense, they've had their moments where they've struggled, 100%. That has been an issue. The safeties, the linebackers, they aren't very healthy. They're now getting healthy, and the defense is looking better, but there is still concerns with the defense. You're hoping that, like, maybe the safeties play better, maybe they get more healthy, or they're able to go sign Micah Hyde, like he comes out of retirement. Like, this team, they're still a Super Bowl team to me. I think they still trend up. I still think they finish at the top of the AFC, but there's still something there that's missing to make me confident they win the AFC. But they're like right there. And we're heading up north for the toughest division in football, AFC North. Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, this team is really, really, really the same as it has always been with Mike Tomlin. They've had their moments where it's like, okay, yeah, there's some juice there that's different with Russ and all that. It still concerns me the way that, how the plays are drawn up, how they're only attacking the sidelines, how there's moments where Russ will get a downfield shot and it'll look good. But, I mean, Russ has remained good in these 2 games so far. The defense is still one of the best in the NFL, and there's still a lot of things to take away and be confident about. But there is they do have a hard schedule to end the year. That the easier schedule was the beginning of the year. They're going to get to that 500 mark. Like, I keep making this joke that they're going to get to that 500 mark. So Tomlin has the thing still, and then the end of the year they just lose their games, and it's still 9-8. I don't know if they trend in that direction. Russ has been good in the game. Like for a guy that does not like how Russ has played the last few years, I have to admit he has played good. The running game, Najee Harris is my least favorite running back in the NFL, and he's been better. The offensive line's more healthy, and Broderick Jones has not been good, but everyone else has looked better than you'd think. I mean, you just got to be confident that Russ and George Pickens can open up and stretch the field enough that the running game with Warren and Najee can take them home. Okay, another team that I feel like could make a serious run to close out the year. Yeah, they had some issues this weekend with Jermaine Burton, but if he ends up getting his act together, they work these things out with him. I think he can actually add another element to this offense that they've been looking for. I can't pronounce the kid's name, number 80, Ionasis. Him, Higgins, and Jamar have all looked really good together. But Burton's another quality receiver that I think that was like a first round talent that can come in and add a lot to this team. They've added more young juice to their defensive line. Then it has not been great. Their defense has been awful. Like they still have some serious issues there. I've talked about Zach Taylor losing his job, but I think if they make a move at the deadline, I feel a lot more confident in this team being a playoff team and making a run to at least get close to the playoffs. There is a hole they have to dig themselves out of, and the offensive line has not been perfect. It's looked okay. It hasn't been as bad as previous years, but Joe's been reading the pocket better. Joe's been more mobile than the last 2 years and finding his guys more often. This offense has been really freaking good. It's the defense. If Hendrickson's not getting the quarterback, no one else is. Sam Hubbard has been one of the worst starting defensive ends in the NFL this year. Their defensive tackles have not been great. They've been trying to use third-round pick McKinley Jackson, second-round pick Chris Jenkins. Miles Murphy has been someone that they've been hoping can stay healthy. They can put in that rotation. They're just really banking on, okay, can our defense at least be league average to where the offense that is near the top of the league can get us in this run? And I think they trend that way as long as if they make a move or if one of their guys can be healthy, I think they trend towards the playoffs. With the Browns, it's rather complicated because I think all around they have the hardest schedule in the NFL this year as a whole, and they still have some hard games left to go. They're 2-7, 2-7, something like that. They're bottom of the NFL in record as well, next to the Raiders. Like, it has not been a good team. Jameis Winston struggled against the Chargers yesterday. They had not been great, and Jameis has moments where it's like, what are you doing? Like he's better than Deshaun. He's better than Deshaun. But Jameis still has Jameis moments. And the offensive line still has not been great. It has not been Brown's offensive line of years past. Cedric Tillman has had a good role in this offense. Njoku has been really good. This week he struggled a bit against the Chargers. Their linebackers are really good, but the 2 previous weeks he was really good. The running game's been okay. It's the defense. Like, the defense has been the great part of this team for the last year and a half, since 2023, since they brought in Jim Schwartz. But there's still health issues there, and it's clear this team is not going to be a top team in the NFL. Like, they're not going to make a run. Like, they're trending towards top 10 pick. Seriously, top 5 pick. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL, and I think in the draft, when the draft comes, you're probably going to look at offensive line because you're still stuck with Deshaun. All right, Baltimore Ravens. I really, really like this team's offense. Going after Deontay Johnson gives you other capabilities in the offense. They dominated one of the best teams and one of the best defenses in the league, the Broncos, in Week 9. The defense is still an issue. I mean, the secondary has not been great. Kyle Hamilton's been really good, and he definitely needed a game-winning pick 2 weeks ago. But the pass rushers have not been incredible. Like, they definitely need more juice there. Roquan Smith is having one of his worst years of his career. And yeah, like I said, the corners have not been great. Like, there is a need here. Like, and free safety has been a serious issue. Benching Marcus Williams, hoping Eddie Jackson would help out there. They haven't. It has not worked. Marcus was their big signing, 2 years ago? And it's just not. Okay, I can't say it's not working defensively. I think there's still a chance this defense could be even better. I think what this team's probably going to have to do tomorrow, before the trade deadline, is what I would hope to do, what I'd hope they do as an NFL fan, and if I was a Ravens fan, I'm not, is go trade for Jadeveon Clowney and go get the guy you had last year, who's also looked like he still has a lot of juice to him this year. That could help the pass rush a bit and give you some more flexibility there. Because Zach Orr, the defensive play caller, has not been bad. At the beginning of the year, I feel like he struggled a little bit, but at this point, it's mostly they're trying to find an answer to what is going on in the defense. Why is Roquan not looking as good as he has before? Why is the free safety spot so bad for him? And how can we make this team at least close to what this team was the last 2 years in terms of defense? This team is also trending towards a top 5 pick. They are one of the worst teams in football. And it's not like the roster is horrible. There are some issues, but it's not horrible. Like, a big thing is coaching, in my opinion. Honestly, a big thing is coaching, because they have lost 5 games by 1 score. They have been close in each and every game. And that stat was there for the Vikings last year after in 2022 they won a ton of games, like 11, 12 games by one score. And then last year they lost all those games by one score. Well, at least the Vikings showed that they could turn it around even without a quarterback help. Like they still showed they had that talent there. The Jaguars, there's good teams win games. Good coach teams win games, and they haven't. They have not won these games. The running back room has been incredibly inconsistent. The offensive line has not been good. They've hoped that they could figure that out, that Anton Harrison could develop more, that Mitch Morse could be a good signing, and the offensive line, Brandon Sheriff, when they got him a few years ago, he was great that first year. Then last year was bad, and this year he's bad. It's not a good offensive line. And play calling's been weak. It has been weak. Like if there's like one highlight to say from their offense, it is Brian Thomas Jr. Like ETN looks, I wouldn't say he looks cooked, but I'd say he has not looked like the player that he was the last 2 years. And Tank Bigsby has had moments in games, but even then, I think he could be a good starter next year, but you're going to need a quality backup right behind him. Also, against the Eagles, the play they designed where D'Ernest Foreman was the guy that went out for a wheel route or a go against a linebacker to win the game. I don't get that from Trevor or the, coaching. Like that was one of the dumbest decisions I've ever seen. And using your third string running back like that, this team makes me so angry. Yeah. If the Colts were trending anywhere, it's towards a top 13 pick. Starting Joe Flacco over Anthony Richardson was a decision I do not agree with whatsoever, but it's clear this team with Joe Flacco as the starter is not a quality rushing team, and Joe Flacco is not good enough with these receivers to propel you towards the playoffs. You're 4-5, and yes, the AFC is still competitive, but this team makes no moves. They don't trade. They don't sign a lot of quality free agents. They mostly rely on the draft. So a team that is standing still and hoping that progression can work out and a 40-year-old quarterback can get better throughout the year is going to propel you to the playoffs. I don't think that's how it works. Like they're hoping they can be the Browns from last year. Well, the thing with the Browns is they had a historic defense to start the year, and they were 5-2 with Deshaun Watson, who was awful. And then you put Joe Flacco on that team, and I wouldn't say he had better receivers, but I mean similar receiving situation, and a way better defense on a positive record team and took him to the playoffs. You're putting him in a situation where now they're a negative record. It's one of the worst defenses in the NFL because they can't stop the run, and the secondary has had some issues. I mean, shout out Jalen Jones from Texas A&M. He had first round pick talent, but he was on a bad A&M team and fell in the draft. And then Kenny Moore has been good. DeForest Buckner's good. And he's healthy now. Grover Stewart, Latu I still love. But the linebacker room, the safeties have not been great, and they have struggled to stop the run. And I don't think benching Richardson for Flacco propels you to the playoffs. I still think this team is a top 13 pick team. I think they finish the year like 8-9. I was gonna do a video on the Titans because I know what they're doing. Like I think everyone knows what they're trying to do at this point. They understand Will Levis is probably not the guy. He's been hurt for a few games. And they spent money in the offseason, spent some resources in the offseason to get guys to make this team as good as possible to see if Will Levis could be that guy. Well, Hopkins is gone. They traded Ernest Jones IV for an older linebacker that will be a free agent in the offseason. And they're just trying to stack up on picks. They might make another move before Tuesday, even though trade deadline always feels like nothing really happens until last minute. We don't know. There's not a lot of rumors. But yeah, I mean, this team is selling guys off. They're trying to get picks, and they're hoping they can get I think they still need a second or third in this draft. They understand Will Levis is probably not the guy. We're not making the playoffs, and this team is just trying to recoup assets so they can go do a mini rebuild again. Like that is where they're at now. This team, I don't even know if they trust their coach, Brian Callahan, and all the quotes that players have said. There is some issues there that I think the front office and ownership will address in the offseason. But yeah. I do think this team is trending towards a top 10 pick as well. All right, final team, Houston Texans. And let me just say, this is one of the teams this is one of the teams that inspired me to do these two videos because I don't think they're trending in a negative direction. I'm not going to be the hot take guy that says Stroud is struggling because he's not. He's struggling, I mean, like a little bit on the field because the offensive line's not good, but I still think he's a talented player. I don't think he's necessarily in a slump. I think he's running for his life every game. I think if they get Patterson back, which they didn't play him in this game against the Jets because he got hurt on Sunday. They didn't want to give him 4 days to heal from an injury and go play. They're giving him till next weekend when they play again on Sunday Night Football, and he goes in Kenyon Green's spot, and I think he'll be way better. Kendrick Green went in for Kenyon Green when he got hurt and played fine. I mean, he sold in some moments too, but I think Patterson's the guy you have at that left guard spot, and I think this team looks better offensive line-wise. Titus Howard hasn't been great. Right guard hasn't been great. Left guard has been awful with Kenyon Green. Again, shout out Texas A&M. But I think it'll look better. You also get Nico Collins back this week. Tank Dell has really formed it back into his old self in a role. And yeah, I think this team will look better over the next few weeks. Joe Mixon has been really good, and the defense has been hot over these last few weeks. I still don't think they're a Super Bowl team, but I still think they're a top of conference team, and it could be a team that makes the AFC Championship with the right amount of luck. Yes, coaching has not been good in terms of offensive play calling. Bobby Slowick has had some serious issues, and D'Amico has had time management issues. But this team is still a more talented version of last year's team. Like they're a more talented version of last year's team now, just without Diggs. And that Diggs wasn't on the team last year. So I'm still confident this team can at least make a run to finish the year and still be one of the better teams in the AFC. I'm not that guy that's going to go for the hot take with them. And yeah, that's where I feel like most teams are at the midseason mark, where they're trending, where they are, where they're going to be. I'm excited to see how this AFC race ends. Like, it's not as good as we thought going into the year. There are teams that are struggling that we didn't think would be struggling. There are teams that have weaknesses that we didn't think have weaknesses. But I think the Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, Texans, Chargers, that's 5 teams right now, Bengals, and there's a 7th team in there that I think could, make a big run. Maybe a Broncos, maybe a Jets could make the playoffs. Like, they're competitive teams still. Steelers, you can throw the Steelers in that conversation because they've been so good to start the year, and Russ might not fall off. We never know. And Bengals, the Bengals are still in that conversation. There is still so much football left to be played. Trade deadlines this week. I'm really excited. Thank you. Let me know down below if you think I've missed something, if you think I talked about a team wrong, if you want me to talk about something else. This is Son of Sports, and I'll catch y'all next time.